Welcome to OOTO, the Out of the Office Investigation into Personal Health Actualization. This time we're discussing truth, meaning, and context.
Hello and welcome, everyone. Sue, today we are tackling a question that is, without a doubt, one of the biggest ones out there. We're talking about truth. This is a concept that philosophers have wrestled with for thousands of years, that scientists are chasing to the very edges of the universe, and that every single one of us has to navigate every single day of our lives.
It's so true, Bob. And what's really fascinating is that this isn't just some abstract philosophical puzzle. As we're going to explore today, the search for truth and how we define it is actually the bedrock of how we build our reality. And, maybe surprisingly, it's absolutely fundamental to our own health and well-being. Exactly, Bob. And that's why this quote from Francis Bacon is the perfect place to start. He describes Pontius Pilate asking this monumental question: what is truth? It's maybe the most profound question a person can ask. And then, what does he do? He just turns and walks away. He doesn't wait for the answer. It's such a powerful and frankly unsettling image because it perfectly captures our strange relationship with truth. We say we want it, we claim to value it, but so often we're actually terrified of what it might ask of us. And it's that exact tension that we're really going to get into today. So here's our roadmap. We're going to start with that eternal question and look at its ancient roots in Greek philosophy. Then we'll get into the psychology of it, why we sometimes seem to have an aversion to truth. From there, we'll take a leap into the 20th century and see how modern physics just complicated everything. And finally, we're going to bring it all home, connecting these massive ideas back to truth, our health, and our place in the cosmos. All right, so let's jump right in with the eternal question. Because before we can even begin to talk about what living in truth means for our health, I think we have to really appreciate that just defining truth has been a central driving quest of humanity for millennia. This isn't a New Age concept. It's an ancient and vital part of what makes us who we are. You've hit the nail on the head, Sue. And Plato just gets right to the heart of it with this idea. He's arguing that searching for truth isn't just some intellectual exercise, It's not like doing a Sudoku puzzle to pass the time. For Plato, this is a core function of being human. It's about recognizing that we're not just isolated beings, but we're part of a much larger cosmos. And our purpose is to try and align our own small understanding with that greater reality. It's a metaphysical journey, really, a journey toward enlightenment. And that journey really got its first detailed maps from the ancient Greeks. So let's take a look at how the incredible blueprints laid down by Plato and his brilliant student Aristotle created a framework for understanding truth that has shaped, well, pretty much all of Western thought ever since. It's amazing how much you can learn just from the word itself. The Greek word for truth is aletheia, and it reveals a totally different way of thinking. It doesn't just mean truth as in a correct fact. The literal translation is unconcealment or disclosure. Think about that. It implies that truth isn't just a bunch of facts sitting out in the open for us to pick up. No, it's something that is hidden, that is veiled, and it requires our active effort to bring it out of the shadows and into the light. It's a process, an act of discovery. Oh, absolutely. And Plato's allegory of the cave is the ultimate illustration of aletheia in action. It's probably one of the most powerful metaphors in all of philosophy, for good reason. Just picture it. You have these prisoners who've been chained in a dark cave their entire lives, forced to stare at a flat wall. Behind them, there's a fire, and people are walking past it carrying objects, casting shadows on the wall. For the prisoners, these flickering shadows are reality. It's all they've ever known. But then, one prisoner is freed. He's forced to turn and see the fire, see the actual objects, and then he's dragged painfully out of the cave into the blinding light of the sun. That whole journey, from the comfortable, easy shadows of appearance to the difficult, painful, but brilliant light of real reality, that is the active and often difficult journey toward truth. And then you have Aristotle, who comes along and, in his typical fashion, starts to systematize these ideas. He gives us the famous correspondence theory, which is actually pretty straightforward. It's the idea that a statement is true if it matches up with reality. The grass is green is a true statement if, you look outside and the grass is actually green. But then he goes so much deeper with a second, more profound idea, ontological truth. This suggests that truth isn't just something that exists in our sentences or our minds. He believed truth and falsehood are fundamental properties of being itself.
Right. So for Aristotle, a healthy oak tree that's growing strong and fulfilling its potential is expressing a kind of truth of oak treeness, whereas a sick, stunted tree is sort of a falsehood, a deviation from its essential nature. It's the idea that the universe itself has truth literally woven into its very fabric.
Okay, so this is where it gets really interesting. If these incredible thinkers, Plato and Aristotle, establish that truth is a fundamental good, that it's a core part of our nature and the nature of the universe, well, that leads to a really difficult question. Why are we so often allergic to it? So let's shift gears now and explore the psychology of why we humans are so often drawn to falsehood, even when we know it's not good for us. And that question brings us right back to Francis Bacon. This quote is just such a sharp and honestly uncomfortable piece of psychological insight. He's not just saying we tell lies to get ahead or to avoid trouble. He argues there's a deeper, what he calls a natural though corrupt love of the lie itself. He compares truth to the naked and open daylight of the sun, which shows every flaw and wrinkle for what it is. But lies, he says, are like the flattering glow of candlelights, which make everything seem grander and more beautiful than it really is. We often prefer the comfort of a flattering hope over a harsh reality simply because it feels better. And wow, centuries before Francis Bacon, another Bacon, Roger Bacon, a philosopher from the 13th century, gave us this absolutely incredible checklist for why we fail to find truth. He called them the 4 stumbling blocks, and just listen to how timeless these are. Number 1, relying on unworthy or fragile authority. Number 2, just clinging to long-standing customs because that's how we've always done it. Number 3, going along with the feeling of the ignorant crowd. And number 4, hiding our own ignorance behind a show of knowing it all.
It's unbelievable, isn't it? That was written in the 1200s. That third one especially, the feeling of the ignorant crowd, is a perfect description of a modern-day social media echo chamber or filter bubble. These stumbling blocks are the very same cognitive biases that get in our way and prevent us from thinking clearly and seeing the truth about ourselves, our health, and the world around us today. It's just astonishing.
You're listening to OO2 with research by author Paul Bulow. Okay, so for centuries, the philosophical model was more or less clear. There's an objective truth out there, and our job as humans is to uncover it. But then the 20th century happened. And science itself, the ultimate tool we thought we had for discovering objective truth, threw a massive curveball into the whole equation. Modern physics, especially quantum mechanics, started to reveal a universe that was far, far stranger and much less certain than anyone had ever imagined. This analogy is just the perfect way to wrap your head around the problem that physics ran into. In the old, classical world of physics, the world of Newton, you can measure the speed and position of a baseball flying through the air without really changing its path. But when you get down to the quantum world of electrons and photons, things get weird. The very act of observing a particle, of measuring it, fundamentally changes it. It's just like the analogy says, to really understand how a bird works, you might need to dissect it. But in the process of dissecting it, you destroy the very thing you wanted to understand, its ability to fly. This is the observer effect. The clean line we thought existed between us, the observers, and reality, the observed, it just gets incredibly blurry. And that leads us straight to this quote from Dr. Kroll. The implications of that observer effect are just profound. I mean, think about it. If the act of looking at reality actually changes it, can we ever really talk about a single objective truth that exists independent of us? Quantum physics forces us to abandon that comfortable, solid, classical view of the world. We have to, as she says, unmoor ourselves. It's like cutting the rope that tethers our boat to the dock. We have to let go of that fixed, static idea of reality and learn to be more flexible, more elastic in our thinking. Okay, so this is where our investigation gets really, really exciting for me, Bob. We've journeyed from Plato's cave all the way to the mind-bending realities of quantum physics. We've seen how the very definition of truth has been challenged. So now we're going to tie all of these threads together and connect it all back to what we're all about here at O2UT, our personal health. If objective truth is kind of blurry, how in the world do we find a practical truth that can guide our lives, our bodies, and our well-being? Well, to help bridge that massive gap, we can look at some modern thinkers like the technologist Joe Firmage. He really represents this very modern attempt to grapple with our new, uncertain reality by trying to build a grand, unified theory of everything. In his work, he makes this incredibly bold attempt to synthesize modern science, ancient spirituality, even history, arguing that these aren't separate, conflicting domains. He sees them as different facets of one single underlying reality.
It is an unbelievably ambitious goal, isn't it? He's basically trying to write a new story for humanity, one that can hold everything from quantum mechanics and cosmology to ancient religious texts and mythologies. And, while some people would definitely call it speculative or going too far, what I find compelling is the drive behind it. The drive to heal this huge rift in our culture between our scientific understanding and our spiritual needs. It's an attempt to find a single unifying truth in what often feels like a very fragmented world.
And this one quote really just encapsulates his entire project. Firmage is basically suggesting that the age-old conflict between science and religion might just be a misunderstanding based on language. You know, when a scientist speaks with total awe about the elegance of physical laws and the sheer vastness of the cosmos, and when a spiritual person speaks with deep reverence about God, are they really talking about two different things? Firmage argues that no, they're both pointing their fingers at the same ultimate, mysterious, creative reality. They're just using different words to describe it. So this brings us right to the crucial connection, the point where the rubber meets the road. We've talked about truth in philosophy, truth in physics, but now we have to make it practical. We have to ask the big question: how can these grand ideas of truth, meaning, and context actually tangibly affect our day-to-day mental and physical health? The connection is incredibly direct, Bob. Understanding the truth of our own bodies and then making healthy daily choices based on that truth is absolutely critical to our physical and mental health. Let's take something specific, like recovery from hypertension. We know it's not just about taking a pill and hoping for the best. True recovery involves understanding the truth of what your body is telling you it needs: the right nutrition, less stress, proper movement, better rest. Living in truth in this context simply means aligning your daily actions with the biological reality of your body. When you do that, you create a healthy internal environment. You align your body for both mental and physical success. Okay, so if living in truth is the goal for our health, we need to get specific. We need to define its key elements. So let's really look at what it means, in practical terms, to bring truth, meaning, and context into our daily lives. What does that actually look like? Right. These elements here are really the practical application of this whole philosophy. This framework suggests that the truth of our body's health is deeply connected to these very real, tangible things. It's about the truth of what you eat. Is your diet truly nourishing you, or are you just eating out of habit or convenience? It's about being truthful in your daily actions. Are they actually moving you towards your health goals? It includes fundamental truths about our biology, like our non-negotiable need for sunlight and fresh air. It's about being honest with yourself about your personal energy levels and not constantly pushing past your limits. And maybe the most important piece is having a clarity routine, consciously making sure that your thoughts, your words, and your actions are all in alignment. That integrity, that harmony, is a powerful form of living in truth. And that brings us to our final, really unifying question. When we start to align all of these elements, we can create this incredibly powerful positive feedback loop. So let's ask it. Can this commitment to truth, meaning, and context really improve our mental health and our relationships while at the same time supporting our physical optimum performance? The answer is a resounding, emphatic yes. An authentic life that's aligned with truth is about so much more than just not telling lies to other people. It's about reducing the internal stress and friction that comes from a misalignment between who we really are and how we're living. When your actions are true to your body's needs, true to your values, it dramatically reduces stress and anxiety. That mental clarity and peace then supports better physical performance and, naturally, fosters deeper, more authentic connections with others. It can absolutely be linked to an overall healthy outlook and a more peaceful existence, simply because all the different parts of your life are finally working in harmony, not fighting against each other. So, here we are. We've gone from Plato's cave to the quantum realm and all the way back to the cells in our own bodies. And we've seen that from the grandest cosmic scale down to the most personal, intimate level, reality seems to operate on these core principles of truth and alignment. The cosmos is built on truth, and so is our health. And so we want to leave you with this final, personal question to reflect on. Based on everything we've explored today, what is the one truth in your life that is asking for your attention right now? Thanks for joining us for this Oto investigation. We'll see you next time.